You rise from the damp grass, knees faintly aching, and shift your stance to mirror the ridge signal, feet angled outward, torso leaning slightly forward, a universal posture of readiness. In these prehistoric bands, body language formed the backbone of coordination. An open palm meant peace, a chest forward lean meant advance, and a head tilt signaled, look here. A mainstream fact grounds this moment. Across hunter-gatherer societies, silent gestures allowed groups to split into hunting parties without startling game or alerting rival clans. Historians still argue whether these gestures were shared culturally or invented independently in each landscape, but cave art from France to Australia hints at similar postures carved into stone. You raise your brows and widen your eyes, a simple expression meaning surprise or attention. Even infant studies suggest instinctively imitate such facial signals before speaking, showing that non-verbal cues are baked into our social wiring. You practice it now, eyebrows arching as you spot a flicker of movement in the ferns, then glance to your companion. They nod in reply, their own brows lifting, and you share a moment as clear as any spoken word. Moving along a narrow game trail, you tap your foot twice on a flat stone. Pause, then tap 3 times, a primitive breadcrumb trail coded beneath forest canopy. Each tap echoes softly, guiding followers without a sound. Quirky tidbit: some San hunter-gatherers in the Kalahari used similar patterns in cracked earth to mark waterholes. The rhythm itself became an unspoken map. You rearrange a pebble to restore the pattern. 2 taps, pause, 3 taps, ensuring clarity for anyone tracing your path. A rustle of leaves overhead draws your gaze upward. You point with a straight forefinger toward a gap in the branches. Fruit there. The angle of your finger is precise. The slightest deviation would mean nothing. In many foraging groups, a rigid index finger directed others to edible roots or dangerous snakes. Historians still argue whether the rigidity of such pointing evolved from grooming fists or from simple necessity, but the practice appears worldwide. Your companion reaches out, brushes your arm twice. Tap tap, a touch code meaning I understand. In many tribal systems, a double tap on the shoulder built emotional solidarity, a non-verbal promise of mutual care. This gesture eases your chest, reminding you that companionship need not be spoken. A light joke flitters across your mind. Modern meetings could use more shoulder taps and fewer emails. Rising, you spread your arms wide, fingers outstretched, a sign of all clear gather. This expansive posture invited clans to assemble for communal chants or meals. A mainstream truth underscores it. Ceremonial assemblies relied on open, welcoming stances to attract participants. Historians still argue whether such gestures evolved into later ritual dances or remained functional signals. Cave paintings suggest both roles existed early on. As dusk deepens, you squat on a low boulder and sweep your gaze in a circular arc. Slow head turns meaning observe surroundings. Then you tap your heart twice, thumb to chest, together. That empathetic touch, used in many oral cultures, cemented trust. You and your companion mirror each other's taps, voices unneeded, heartbeats aligned in silent agreement. You step into the dim glow of the firelit clearing, where every flicker of light paints shadows across your companion's face. Their brows rise just so, arches tilting upward at the outer edges, and you feel the silent signal. A friend approaches. You step into the dim glow of the firelit clearing. You step into the dim glow of the firelit clearing. You step into the dim glow of the firelit clearing. You mirror the motion, lifting both brows together, which in your band means all clear. I bring peace. In many prehistoric societies, eyebrow raises and head tilts conveyed essential information across distances too wide for whispers. A mainstream historical fact settles in primate studies. show that humans and great apes share a complex facial expression system, suggesting that early hominins relied heavily on eyebrow, mouth, and eye movements long before spoken language evolved. Historians still argue whether the earliest humans consciously refined these expressions into codes or simply trusted instinct to guide their group. Either way, those silent signals shaped social bonds. Your companion's eyes widen, pupils catching the dancing firelight, a signal of surprise or attentiveness. You've learned that a slight dilation can mean excitement, whereas a quick narrowing warns of suspicion. Fringe research posits that some Paleolithic people used ground ochre to tint the skin around the eyes, creating a natural eyeliner that made their expressions more visible in low light. You try imagining red pigment along your own lashes and find the thought both amusing and oddly practical. A single light joke flutters through your thoughts. If only our modern selfie filters knew where to place the ochre highlights. You lean forward, offering a small half-smile, corners of your mouth rising in a silent friend. A mainstream truth echoes here, in hunter-gatherer bands. Smiles before words could stop an arrow or avert a conflict, letting people know you came in peace. Smile rituals appear in rock art sequences from Spain to Indonesia, suggesting widespread use. Historians still argue whether such smiles evolved primarily to cement pair bonds or to maintain broader group cohesion, but the result is the same. Early humans used every facial muscle at their disposal. Your companion responds with a subtle tilt of the head and a half blink, two micro-expressions layered together. Blink codes were critical. A slow, deliberate blink signified, "I see you," early forms of mutual recognition, whereas a rapid blink could signal, "I disagree," or "I'm uneasy." You feel your heart sink with their slow blink, a primal dance of trust. A quirky tidbit surfaces. Anthropologists studying modern desert tribes in Niger observed a blink chorus, where groups synchronize their blinks in unison before a hunt, as though eyelids speak in chorus to steady nerves. You try to blink in time with your companion, and you almost succeed until you giggle and break the rhythm. You draw closer, watching their gaze sweep across the clearing. Eye contact in these early bands was a careful art. Direct gaze could establish hierarchy, while sideways glances could share secrets unnoticed by others. Studies of ancient skulls suggest that eye sockets in Homo sapiens evolved to facilitate whites of eyes visibility, enhancing intentional gaze signals. Scholars still debate whether this white eye trait evolved primarily for cooperative communication or to intimidate rivals, but either way your glance carries weight. You catch the corner of your companion's eye, a nearly imperceptible squint, and recognize the signal for low light, watch for predators. You pause, feeling the cool brush of night air and the muffled scuttle of small creatures. You mirror the squint, narrowing your gaze to scan the tree line. This nonverbal code, honed for safety, likely saved countless lives. Without words, faces and eyes were the most trusted messengers of threat. A breeze stirs embers, and you raise your hand to shield your eyes from sparks, another cue meaning protect or defend. In many tribal games, children practiced using hands to shield eyes and re-emerge with surprise, teaching cognitive timing and attention skills. You remember playing that game as a child, learning to read intention in another's eyes when no words passed between you. Your companion lowers their gaze respectfully, a subtle downward glance meaning I acknowledge your role. In many societies, eye aversion and return of gaze structured status. A junior member glances down, then back up to show respect. An elder holds their gaze to assert authority. Historians still argue whether these eye patterns codified hierarchical norms or emerged from universally understood courtesy rules, but both interpretations highlight the richness of silent exchange. You smile again, softer this time, mouth corner up, cheeks lifting, a signal for understood. You notice how the muscles around your eyes crinkle, adding warmth to the silent message. In modern studies of emotion, this Duchenne smile involves both mouth and eye muscles, distinguishing genuine happiness from polite politeness. That natural authenticity likely served early humans as a trust bond, signaling honesty without a spoken vow. You then raise one finger to your own lips in a gesture that came to mean be quiet. No need for hushed whispers. That finger to mouth is a universal hush sign still used today. Fringe theory suggests that even infants instinctively press a finger to their lips when imitating adult behavior, showing that this gesture imprinted itself deeply in human cognition. A sudden hoot of an owl, unexpected, yet familiar, draws both of you into a shared moment. You widen your eyes in unison, a two-person echo of what was that. A mainstream historical fact glimmers. In many prehistoric cultures, simultaneous expressions bound people emotionally, a collective gasp or awe at natural wonders, reinforcing group unity. You slowly lower your hands and relax your face into neutral calm, eyelids half lowered, mouth soft, shoulders easing, a universal sign of rest, letting tension flow out. In your band, resting expressions mark safe periods, times to process and recover. You take a deep breath, feeling the night settle around you. As you settle back onto your haunches, you trace a finger along your companion's arm, a light tap meaning thank you. Touch underpins facial signals, completing the silent vocabulary. A final quirky note. Some tribes used a double tap on the wrist as a version of good luck, a small blessing without words. You tap twice and watch your companion's half smile, knowing you've spoken a multivalent sentence without opening your mouth. In this silent conversation of brows, eyes and smiles, you've woven trust, warning and warmth. Without a single word, your faces have told a story, an ancient dialogue of emotion and intention handed down across millennia. And as you lie back, watching the embers fade, you realize that before speech existed, your ancestors spoke through the eloquence of their expressions, a language written on the human face itself. You push aside a low-hanging branch and step onto a narrow game trail, toes sinking into damp soil that still holds yesterday's rain. Your footprints press into the earth, heel, arch, ball, each print a subtle code for those who follow. You glance down and deliberately veer your foot clockwise, creating a slight swirl at the toe that signals turn right at the next fork. In the silence before words, tracks were text. A mainstream fact tells us that prehistoric trackers could interpret hoofprints, footprints, and even the spacing between steps to distinguish between a lone wolf, a mother deer, or a hunting party approaching. Historians still argue whether such skills were taught as formal apprenticeships or passed informally around evening fires, but your feet commit these codes as naturally as breathing. You pause at a cluster of stones arranged in a shallow V-points, leaning toward the ridge above. You prod the larger stone with your toe to ensure it's stable, then tap the smaller rock twice, a subtle signal meaning water ahead. Fringe research suggests that some ancient peoples used color-contrasting stones, white quartz among dark basalt, to highlight signals for travelers, creating primitive signposts before anyone cut wood. You test this by nodding toward the stones, as if your companion is reading your mind. They nod back, acknowledging the hidden fountain you both need. A breeze carries the faint smell of damp fern and distant smoke. You notice how your footfalls, soft heel to toe, are nearly silent, a learned courtesy to avoid startling game and to preserve the clarity of footprints for those behind you. This barefoot stealth is as old as your species. Mainstream archaeology shows some Paleolithic footprints found in soft volcanic ash were followed by entire family groups, leaving a layered record of generational passage. Historians still argue whether these ash walkways were sacred pilgrimage routes or simply daily foraging lanes, but they remind you that paths hold memory. Your companion steps off the trail to retrieve a long, slender bone and lays it across a narrow gap in roots, a makeshift bridge marker indicating pass here. You nod, knowing that bone was once seasonally shed antler, cleaned by scavengers, then repurposed by your group. Quirky tidbit: the Sand people of southern Africa have been known to tie pieces of peeling bark to thorn trees as markers, a biodegradable trail system that vanishes after the wet season. You follow their example, moving a curled strip of bark to point toward the next waterhole. Ahead, a shallow depression in the ground reveals a faint swirl of dried grasses, a clear sign someone once sat here, lounging and sharing stories. In your band, these story circles were intentionally left to mark camp here, if hungry or let down your guard. Food is nearby. You crouch to smooth the grasses back in a ring, leaving a small gap for your companion's footprints, so the next group will know you've shared this comfort once. It's a gesture of hospitality in a silent language. As you rise, you flatten a flat, elongated leaf against a broad rock and press it with your palm, imprinting its veins in the stone. This leaf-rubbing code, you recall, indicated poisonous berries nearby, an urgent warning you once saw etched into clay fragments. Scholars still debate whether leaf impressions were formalized warnings in some cultures or spontaneous cautions by foragers, but the flattened leaf pattern speaks clearly in your mind. Avoid the red clusters across the creek. You cross the creek on a fallen log, barefoot, and press your toes against mossy bark, leaving a dark streak pointing forward. Another step in the trail message. Your companion mimics the motion, reinforcing that the message is intentional, not accidental. Folk knowledge from Australian Aboriginal trackers reveals similar toe streak markings on clay banks, a tactile sign that survives a flash flood better than twig markers. You smile at the ingenuity of ancestors who spun the Earth's own materials into signposts. Finally, you reach a pine grove where the needles form a soft carpet. You kneel and press an open palm into the bed of needles, then sweep it in a half circle. Its wide palm stroke means safe rest here. Your companion places a small bundle of dried grass beside the palm print, a silent invitation to sit. You cross your legs, lean back, and let the scent of pine fill your senses as the grove canopy hushes the world. No words, just tracked signals guiding you home. As you settle, you catch the glow of ember light from a distant campfire, another silent beacon inviting companionship. You extend your hand, palm down, fingers relaxed, a universal posture meaning join. Your companion steps forward, mirroring you. Together you follow the camp's glow, retracing the coded footprints and markers you left behind. And in that journey you realize that before words existed, your very presence, your tracks, and the delicate arrangement of stones and twigs formed the world's first language, alive under your feet. You crest a low ridge where the pines thin out, the horizon opening into a broad valley. Your companion kneels to gather kindling, dry bark that crackles under light pressure, and you follow their silent cue, palms apart, palms down, the gesture for prepare fire. This echo of earlier hand sweeps now becomes a ritual step in the nonverbal lexicon of smoke signals. You arrange small twigs in a tight pile, then add larger branches, each placement dictated by a mutual understanding rather than spoken instruction. It's a silent choreography you've practiced since childhood, a reminder that long before words existed, fire and smoke were among the first long-distance messengers. You crouch to strike flint and steel together, sparks dancing like shy fireflies before catching the tinder. A mainstream fact glows bright. As early as 2500 BCE, ancient Egyptians maintained beacon networks along the Nile, using signal fires to warn of approaching threats. But even earlier hunter-gatherer groups likely employed similar methods. Risky, yes, but effective in open landscapes. Historians still argue whether such fire codes could convey complex information or remained confined to simple alerts. All clear, danger, meet at dawn. But they agree that smoke was a universal exclamation point across distant hills. A quirk arises when you add green fern fronds to the coals, sending thick blue-green smoke billowing skyward. An unusual plume that in your band signified fresh kill rather than the usual black or white. You learned this odd dye trick from an elder who crushed charred animal dung into powder, producing smoke in strange hues. This fringe practice, though pungent, ensured only your group recognized the color code. You test the fronds placement: 1 heavy dab for food ready, 2 for danger approaching, 3 for gather firewood. The bamboo-like hiss of steam meets the crackle of ember, producing a multi-sensory bulletin board. You step back to watch the vertical column of smoke rise, its edges diffusing into the twilight. Your companion tucks a finger under their chin and tilts their head, a callback to the first gestures you mastered, and thus signals signal scene. You respond by stamping a circle in the dirt with your toe, a local code meaning retransmit as needed. The two of you will wait in silence, knowing that watchers on a distant ridge will interpret the pattern, then echo the message in kind, leapfrogging information across miles. As the fire settles into embers, you toss on a handful of fresh twigs in rapid succession, creating a series of rising puffs, 5 in quick bursts, the exact code for meet at sunrise. This staccato rhythm of smoke puffs is the equivalent of an urgent triple knock on a door. It's an instinctual semaphore. Watchers learn to count puffs against the sky's canvas. A light joke drifts through your mind. If only your phone's notifications were this visually artistic. 5 green puffs instead of 5 beeps. You crouch behind a rock to observe the valley below, breathing the cool evening air heavy with pine resin. In response to your sequence, you see a faint counterplume rising 2 ridges over. That distant smoke confirms passage of the message. Roger, see you at sunrise. You nod, the tiny smile you offer as wordless as the signal itself. It's an early version of a read receipt, a confirmation that these silent dialogues truly connect you across emptiness. Rocky outcrops around you glimmer as embers glow from below, matching the flare of fading daylight. You add small branches to keep the smoke alive, alternating green fronds and dry bark to vary hue and density. A mainstream echo whispers in your mind. In ancient Greece, signal fires on mountain tops transmitted news of Olympic victors, but some evidence suggests that analogous systems existed in pre-Neolithic Europe, though wet conditions often frustrated continuous signals. In Othos Sunchu, Sumoth domains and nos pihis sing show. In mainstream echo, whispers in your mind. In ancient Greece, signal fires on mountain tops transmitted news of Olympic victors. Your companion brushes ash from their legs and leans forward, index finger pressed to lips. Be quiet, watch, reminding you that even the slightest voice could betray the covert operation. You lean back, feeling the fire's warmth on your shoulders and listening to the soft snap of smoldering sticks. The tactile hush of holding your breath matches the crackle beneath your palms. In a world before words, silence itself was part of the message. Nothing distract you from the signal. Suddenly, a breeze shifts, carrying the smoke column at a diagonal, warping its intended vertical clarity. You lean in, breathe in the scent of resin and fern, and wave a branch just beneath the plume. Your improvised fan corrects the drift, coaxing smoke back into a straight line. This quick adjustment, learned from watching storms, signals maintenance needed. A neighboring hill watches. They see the correction and know the message matters enough to keep upright. Weather or wind won't stop us. Your companion begins to dismantle the fire with deliberate motions, covering the embers, scattering coals, stamping out anything that glows, signaling end transmission. You mirror their motion, using the heel of your boot to extinguish the final embers. Together you push aside stones and brush the ground smooth, leaving no trace except faint cigarette grey ash. In the absence of words, your bodies complete the silent conversation. Code sent, code received, operation concluded. Before you depart, you squat and draw a final symbol in the dirt, a circle bisected by a line, the universal code for "we return tomorrow." The companion steps into the divided circle and bows, a silent handshake between you. You step over the line, bow back, and rise into the cooling night. At a distance, other watchers will decode your marks, reassemble the messages, and anticipate your return. In the world before words, fire and smoke were the first networks, flickers of hope, warnings, and invitations woven into the air itself. As you walk away, the smell of smouldering fern lingers on your fingers, a tactile memory of the night's conversation. You and your companion move side by side, silhouettes drifting through the dark, confident that tomorrow's signal will rise again, silent yet eloquent, spoken in the language of smoke. You step into the cavern's yawning mouth, the air shifting to a cool hush that muffles your steps. Torchlight dances across jagged walls, illuminating prehistoric etchings and casting long, wavering shadows. Your companion raises a single drum, hollowed wood with stretched hide, and taps it once, low and deliberate. The vibration shudders through the air, meets the stone, and rolls back at you in a delayed echo. Thump, thump. That echo is your partner in communication, a mirror that extends each beat across the dark corridors. You probably won't survive this by muttering to bats, but those rhythms mean everything. You take the drum and tap your own sequence. 2 quick beats, pause, 3 slow taps. The echoes return in patterns you've memorized. Repeat exactly for food gathered, 2 beats for danger, 3 for meat here. A mainstream fact resonates in your mind. Archaeological digs at sites like Tessilia in the Sahara reveal evidence of specialized rock formations used as natural echo chambers, suggesting early humans recognized and exploited echoes for communication. Historians still argue whether these echoes were used primarily for ritualistic purposes or pragmatic signaling, but cave acoustics undeniably amplify and relay sound. Your companion nods, then raises their hand to signal echo good. A slight tilt of their head means repeat, and you pound the drum to reinforce the pattern. The hollow corridor takes your message and flings it back, rock as memory. Quirky tidbit: in Papua New Guinea, some highland tribes reportedly used slit drums carved from tree trunks, placing them in deep ravines to send sonic messages hundreds of meters through dense forest. You imagine such giant logs reverberating with each tap, a bass line echoing like distant thunder. You test this by tapping a large fallen boulder with a stick, thwack, then listen as the deep tone returns. It's a primal amplifier. You follow a narrow passageway deeper, using the echoes like breadcrumbs. Each beat tells you whether you're veering too close to the side walls, an off-rhythm flash signaling cautious, narrow. Trained ears can detect minute distortions in echoes that reveal hidden alcoves or posts. A small joke flickers. If only modern speakers trimmed their bass automatically like these cave walls do. You smile to yourself, raising your drum for another sequence. 4 fast taps meaning water drips ahead, and heed the soft patter that answers back. You reposition a smooth stone beneath elbow height, then strike it with a chipped flint, clink, producing a ringing overtone that arcs through the cavern. That overtone does more than carry. It imbues the dark with a sense of shared presence. Your companion joins with a scratched bone whistle, crafting a 2-part harmony. Bone's shrill note followed by stone's warm ring. Together you create a call and response code. Whistle for attention, stone for understood. As you prepare to leave, you cover the drum and bone whistle, ensuring they're dry, then tap one final pattern, 2 slow thumps, 2 quick taps, meaning end communication. You listen as each segment returns clearly, then subsides into silence. Without a word, you and your companion nod, understand the conversation's closure. Exiting the cave, you shield your eyes against the sudden brightness, the sun's warmth greeting you like an old friend. You pause to extinguish the torch, letting its smoke curl upward, another signal marking your departure. You step into a shallow alcove carved into the limestone cliff, the sun outside a dim halo around the darkness within. Your eyes adjust to the cool half-light, and there, dancing on the rough rock, are the remnants of countless hands, smeared ochre, black manganese, pale yellow clay, arranged in shapes too deliberate to be random stains. You probably won't survive this by shouting, "What does it mean?" But each motif here is a silent paragraph in a prehistoric encyclopedia. You crouch to examine a sweeping red line that curves like a river, its end punctuated by a small cluster of dots. This line and dot pattern, likely maps seasonal migrations of game. Older bands marked watercourses for autumn hunts. A mainstream historical fact comes to mind. Some of the earliest known parietal art, dating back over 30,000 years, was discovered in the Chauvet cave of southern France, where natural rock walls became diaries of Ice Age life. Historians still argue whether such cave art functioned as mnemonic devices for hunting calendars, or primarily as ritual paintings to placate animal spirits. But in front of you it feels like both, a map and a prayer. Your companion kneels beside a panel of hand stencils, left palm splayed, fingers splay wide like ghosts pressed into stone. You lean forward and press your own palm against the rock, thumb overlapping one stencil, matching its angle. When you withdraw, a fresh imprint of your life blurs over the ancient imprint, a tactile handshake across millennia. Quirky tidbit: researchers in Argentina found that some stencils were crafted by blowing pigment through hollow bird bones, a natural airbrush tapped into the hollow of a feather shaft, early graffiti, with remarkable craftsmanship. You test the ridge of the hand, feeling gritty ochre particles under your fingertips, and imagine your forebears patiently puffing color onto the cave walls in flickering torchlight. Above the hand stencils, a row of abstract shapes, circles bisected by lines, zigzag patterns, small crescent marks, runs horizontally. You identify this as a proto-calendar, each symbol marking a moon phase or seasonal weather shift. A mainstream echo emerges in Spain's Cuevas de la Araña. Prehistoric art sequences align closely with lunar cycles, suggesting that early humans tracked time with paint as later generations used stones. Historians still argue whether these symbols were standardized across regions or represented local dialects of iconography. But the precision of the shapes, the crisp circle edges, reveals deliberate communication. You trace a finger along a jagged black fish shape, its tail flicked with a single upward stroke. This fish motif likely indicates spawning season at a nearby stream. A fringe note: some Amazonian rock art features composite creatures, fish with bird talons, possibly mythical hybrids or coded warnings. You lean back and let your eyes roam here, a horse-like figure with exaggerated mane. There, a pair of intertwined serpents whose lines meet at a single point, as though illustrating mating. Each pictogram is a chapter in a silent zoological guide, and a reminder that before words, images taught life lessons. Your companion holds up a small scraper tool, all flint chipped into a sharp wedge, and lightly etches a tiny notch beneath a painted bison. This notch, you recall, means hunting success. You mimic the gesture, making a miniature incision beside a nearby image. You step back and survey the panel as a whole. A stylized figure of a cervid stands beside a totemic spiral. A hand stencil hovers above, and a sequence of small dots arcs like rain. This composite mural could be a silent narrative. In the time of rains, deer gather by the river, and we hunt at night. You imagine your ancestors stepping in this very alcove, torch in one hand, pigment in the other, telling young hunters the hunt's choreography in the language of stone. A mainstream truth guides you. Anthropologists believe that parietal art was often located in deep, seldom visited parts of caves, suggesting the act of painting was as much ritual as instruction. Historians still argue whether most observers ever saw these paintings, or whether they were meant for the eyes of shamans alone. But you feel a communal charge in this open shelter. You crouch to light a small torch, the flame flickering across the art and casting long, eager shadows that shift with each breath. You observe how the original painters likely used similar flickers to animate their scenes. Bison seem to breathe, spirals seem to spin in the moving light. The interplay of light and shape was part of the message. This world lives with your breath. Quirky tidbit bubbles to mind. Some cave rituals likely involved dancers, imitating the painted animals, their shadows merging with the art, to blur the line between human and beast. You tilt your head as though you might join them. An ancient play of silhouette and substance. Your companion kneels by a faint red hand outline and blows gently, testing for residue in a whisper of paint. You recognize the code. Handprints marked clan membership, a seal of belonging that needed no vocal vow. The sheer number of handprints here, hundreds across the chamber, forms a non-verbal census of everyone who passed this way, an identity register in pigment. Mainstream archaeology shows that hand stencils in Europe, Indonesia, and Australia share similar placement near cave entrances, hinting at shared human motivations. Historians still argue whether these stencils marked individual presence or invoked protective spirits, but each print is indisputable proof someone was here. You rise and step into the chamber's mouth. Brush your fingertips clean on your tunic and let the rock art's images fade into shadow behind you. Outside, the air around the alcove smells of damp moss and sun-warmed stone, a comforting contrast to the musky coolness within. You and your companion exchange a final gesture, 2 fingers raised, then pressed to the heart, meaning thank you in this silent dialect. You turn toward the forest trail, hearts full of stories told without a single word. In that moment, you realize that before speeches, before names, humans spoke in lines and colors, sharing survival strategies, seasonal forecasts, and shared identities in the eloquent silence of rock. You pause at the forest's edge, where shafts of sunlight filter through the canopy onto a flat rock, smeared with streaks of red, black, and yellow, a natural palette waiting for your hands. Your companion kneels by a shallow carving filled with ochre-rich soil, mixing it with water from your skin-cupping ritual. You draw a small bowl of animal fat from your pack and drizzle it into the ochre, stirring with a wooden stick until the mixture glistens like sunset. This is your ink, your paint, your wordless proclamation of identity. You probably won't survive this by using just fingertips and eyebrow raisers, but here, pigments speak volumes. You lift a smear of red ochre onto your finger and press it to your companion's forehead, tracing a zigzag line that marks their role as lead hunter. A mainstream fact surfaces. Archaeological sites from Blombos Cave in South Africa show red ochre used dating back over 100,000 years. Clumps engraved with cross-hatched patterns, likely mixed for body painting or symbolic displays. Historians still argue whether such ochre served primarily ritual functions or practical ones, like insect repellents, but its ubiquity across continents confirms its central role in early human culture. The crimson pigment feels cool against your skin, its earthy scent mingling with the forest's musk. You add a dash of charcoal ash to create a deep black paste, swirling it into the ochre to darken the hue. With a feather quill, you draw slender lines down your companion's cheeks, tokens of recent triumphs, reminders of communal successes. In many tribes, charcoal was prized not only for its color, but also for its antiseptic properties, used in small wounds and as a deodorizer under arms. Fringe research, even suggests that some groups mixed crushed charcoal with plant resins to create rudimentary sunscreen. You nod at your companion's raised eyebrows, a silent approval. You step back to admire the tableau. Red lightning zigzags, black spore tracks curling, yellow sun discs bright against skin. In the half-light between moss and old pine, your companion mirrors you, smearing pigment across their arms in mirror image patterns. This mutual application is a silent covenant. We move as one. A quirky tidbit surfaces. Some Amazonian tribes once chewed avocado seed to create a white paste used in body markings, believed to coax fish toward nets during communal hunts. You contemplate adding a streak of pale green, your friend bottled from crushed bark, but decide to save it for a later signal, a seasonal marker of fruit harvest. You both rise and walk to the forest's edge, letting the midday sun heat the pigments into a protective layer on your skin. It's a living armor, clan colors that speak friend or foe at a glance. As you move, the patterns seem to shimmer, their edges softened by sweat. You raise a hand to your forehead in a slow arc, same gesture you used for gather, and your companion interprets it as let's visit the elder. Painters record this symbol too, before words or gestures, in pigment on bark or rock. A low breeze stirs the canopy, carrying the scent of ochre and pollen. You inhale deeply and note a mainstream truth. Many African cultures valued yellow clay, kaolin, for its cooling effects and symbolic link to the sun, believing it granted endurance on the hottest days. Historians still argue whether pigment use evolved from utilitarian body coatings to elaborate symbolic designs, or vice versa, but the intersection of functionality and symbolism is undeniable. You approach a clearing where the clan's elder sits beneath a sprawling oak. Their faces adorned with concentric circles of red and black, an intricate code signifying wisdom and authority. You kneel at their feet and touch your painted chest in a gesture of respect, known here as the silent oath. The elder raises a hand, fingertips stained ochre, and sweeps it outward, meaning receive guidance. Without a word, you and your companion settle cross-legged as the elder raises a thin wooden rod, tapping it thrice against a stone. The echoes resonate like drum beats, underscoring the next ritual. The elder then brushes white clay across their brow, pure and reflective, signifying a fresh start, a cleansing of past transgressions. In some Neolithic sites in Europe, white chalk was ground into powder and found mixed with red iron oxide, pointing to bicolored motifs in both rock art and body painting. Fringe archaeologists even propose that white pigments were rare and reserved for high-status individuals, but mainstream consensus holds that availability varied by region. You watch the elder's steady hand, noting how white sheen contrasts with the fiery reds and blacks. You join the elder's final gesture, a gentle pressing of a pigment-laden finger to your heart, a silent thanks woven in color. The elder nods and places a small twig across your painted wrist, the clan's blessing intertwined with pigment. You slip the twig into your belt. Its memory will guide your journey. With a final bow and mirrored palm gesture, peace be seen, you rise, feeling the pigments dry to a matte embrace. Each pattern etched on your skin glows in the forest's half-light, a moving tapestry of identity, mood, and ancient alliance. In the absence of a shared language, pigment spoke of stories, status, and solidarity. No words required, only the eloquence of Earth's colors on human flesh. You step into a moonlit clearing, where polished stones form a ring, their surfaces cool and smooth under your bare feet. A soft breeze stirs the tall grass beyond, but inside this circle, time has its own rhythm. Your companion raises both arms overhead, then sweeps them downward in a broad arc, an invitation to join the communal dance. In these ancestral gatherings, choreographed movements spoke louder than words, guiding hunts, celebrating rituals, and reinforcing bonds. You probably won't survive this by tapping your foot randomly, but here, every step is a stanza in a silent poem. You lift one foot, toes pointed, then place it precisely behind you, heel first as your companion mirrors the motion. This heel-toe-heel pattern, practiced since childhood, means form, line. A mainstream fact hums beneath your focus. In tribal societies, from the Amazon basin to the Arctic tundra, coordinated dance steps helped coordinate group hunts, signaling readiness, direction and timing without uttering a sound. Historians still argue whether these movements evolved primarily as hunting tools or as sacred rituals marking seasonal changes, but in this clearing, they feel rooted in both survival and ceremony. Your companion shifts weight onto the right leg and extends the left arm toward the sky, an emblem that means the prey approaches. You follow by tilting your head and extending your own arm, replicating the dipped head of an animal motion. Fringe research suggests that San hunter-gatherers in southern Africa once used circle dances with alternating arm thrusts to mimic herd movements, herding antelopes closer for ambush. You imagine the original hunters crouched in grasses at night's edge, their bodies forming living decoys in choreographed precision. You pivot on your heel, knees bent, and stamp your foot 3 times, slow, deliberate, then clap once. The echo of footbeat and clap falls against tree trunks, carrying a clear code: set, ambush. In many early cultures, foot stomping and rhythmic clapping created a sonic map of strategy, heard only by those who knew the pattern. Anthropologists note that echo choreographing steps in echoing canyons heightened the code's reach. Historians still debate whether such dances spread orally across tribes or evolved independently wherever echo-perfect sites existed, but the synchronized stamping here reverberates in your bones. You dip low, hands grazing the grass, a gesture of returned stealth. Your partner rises with a silent whoosh of kilted grass, palm covering mouth, signaling silence. It's a fluid choreography. Crouch, rise, palm, sweep. You breathe in sync, the inhale as part of the dance's score. A quirky tidbit drifts through your thoughts. Some Pacific Islander tribes performed a cephalopod dance before squid hunts, moving arms in tentacle-like spirals to lull the creatures toward shore nets. You test a spiral with your wrist, clockwise for prepare, counterclockwise for withdraw, and feel the dance's vocabulary expand. The clearing's fire pit, a ring of charred stones, becomes your center. You circle it, stepping heel-toe, then pause and press both palms against the ground, an earth touch gesture meaning give thanks. This lowering of the torso and touching of earth was widespread. Mainstream archaeology shows that Neolithic Aegean cultures performed earth knock rituals before sowing crops, combining movement with reverent contact. Historians still argue whether such earth-touching dances were primarily fertility rites or acts of community solidarity. But tonight it links you to countless generations who danced for harvest and for hunt. You pause at the trail's mouth and extend one arm forward, palm down, once the universal gesture for move in single file. Your companion places an open hand on your shoulder in silent endorsement. Together you proceed along the trail one by one, each dancer following the body's cue. As you walk, your steps maintain the beat you practiced in the clearing. Clap, stomp, glide, ensuring the group remains synchronized. A disembodied metronome replaces shouted commands, preserving stealth and unity. A distant howl of a wolf drifts from the ridge. You halt, freeze in place, feet planted in the heel-toe stance. Your companion's finger presses to their lips. Silence. The choreography seamlessly transitions into vigilance. A mainstream echo reminds you that in many forager societies, dance sequences included abrupt pauses to signal predator sighting, a non-verbal panic button coded into ritual. Historians still debate whether these dance pauses were originally accidental or consciously designed as warning signals. But you stand motionless, every muscle poised. You reach a rocky plateau, where another cluster of stones forms a larger ring. You and your companion exchange a glance, brows lifting in synchronized expression. New circle. Together you step into the ring, move to its center, and perform a closing sequence. 2 stomps, 1 clap, a sweep of both arms overhead, and a final grounding palm to the earth. This choreographed finale seals the ritual. The hunt is planned, the group is united, the ancestors are honored. A mainstream fact underscores this. Rock art across continents portrays figures dancing in circles, their arms extended in unison, linking movement to worship and strategy. Historians still argue whether these dances were prosaic community gatherings or sacred rites reserved for shamans, but in this moment, they feel both. As you exit the ring, you share a gentle shoulder bump, an embodied high five, and your companion's eyes crinkle in a silent laugh. You both lean forward in perfect synchronicity, as if bowing to the earth itself. Then you turn and walk away, the echo of your footsteps and the memory of movement lingering in the grass. In a world before words, dance was the script. Every step, every pause, every gesture, a line in the unspoken play of survival and solidarity. You slip from the dance circle into the twilight hush, where the only soundtrack is the rhythmic croak of frogs and the distant call of a nightjar. Your companion cups their hands around their mouth, tilts back their head, and emits a sharp nasal note, an uncanny echo of the bird's call. You probably won't survive this by whistling off-key, but that precise mimicry means watch the sky in your silent lexicon. You match the note, 2 quick repeats in a rising pitch, and wait. The nightjar responds with a soft, cooing reply, confirming your imitation passed muster. A mainstream fact resonates. Many hunter-gatherer groups, from the San people of the Kalahari to the indigenous Australians, used precise imitations of bird or animal calls to locate prey or signal danger. Anthropologists have documented that skilled hunters could lure monkeys with gibbon-like howls or coax deer with fawn distress calls. Historians still argue whether early humans learned these calls by instinct or by deliberate apprenticeship, but the evidence of echo chambers and learning circles suggests careful teaching. Your companion's eyes glitter as they shift into another mimic, a low grunt, short and rolling, almost like a small carnivore's warning growl. They hold the pitch, let it wobble, then pause. You grin, imagining your ancestors crouched on a log, practicing lion growls, until they sounded convincing enough to send real lions padding away in confusion. A quirky tidbit surfaces in parts of Papua New Guinea. Bird hunters employ a jaw wire method, fastening thin wires to their jaws to modulate the echo and create eerily accurate lyrebird imitations. You test a mimicked grunt, shaping your lips around a curved stick to see if you can deepen the tone. It sounds ridiculous, more bad ventriloquism than beast, but your companion nods with indulgence. The air feels charged as you switch calls again. This time a 2-note whistle like a rabbit's alarm. You follow the call with a puff of breath from both hands, a traditional technique that amplifies the sound and projects it over long grass. The scuffling stops. The rabbits have paused, alert. Your companion gives a slight nod, a callback to the eyebrow lifts of your earliest gestures, meaning they hear. You switch again to a low-pitched croak, like a toad's guttural call, which in your band means water nearby. That code exploits amphibians' mating season sounds. Know when to find frogs, know where water pools linger. Fringe research suggests ancient people may have recorded seasonal croaks across lunar cycles, using echoes in dry riverbeds to calibrate their calendars. You clap your hands twice to signal message sent and straighten, listening to the natural chorus. Join your call and response. Darkness deepens. You crouch by a tuft of grass and rub two sticks together, soft friction that in your group signals close-range attention before an imitation. Your companion steps back and delivers a haunting owl call, elongated with a final trill. The hollow night seems to inhale the sound, then exhale it back, drawing your ears to the thin crescent moon above. A mainstream fact drifts in echo mapping in caves, shows that owls use their calls to judge space and distance. Humans could similarly triangulate by listening to return whistles. Historians still argue whether cave dwellers exploited owl echoes deliberately or stumbled upon their utility. But tonight, the call's symmetry feels intentional. You crouch on one knee and draw a small circle in the dirt, a callback to your earlier rock art calendar. Then stand and emit a low, single pulse sound, stirred through your cupped hands, meaning circle. Your companion steps into the circle and repeats the pulse, reinforcing your shared register. Meet here. The hollow ring through the grove confirms the code. In many tribal councils, ritual circles were indicated by such calls, herding members into place without words. Quirky tip: some Papua tribes would sing in short stanzas, each stanza marking the segment of social hierarchy, as though vocal sequence spelled rank in a melody. Blood hums in your ears as you sketch another code, a 3-beat staccato whistle, then silence, then 3 more beats, a sign for danger at 3 points. You scan 3 compass points, left, center, right, catching the rustle of large leaves at the edge of your vision. A sudden owl hoot punctuates the night, a natural answer to your calls. You lean forward, ears straining to distinguish wild call from human imitation. Then you tap the whistle rhythm twice into the palm of your hand, a silent thank you to the owl, honoring the messenger as part of the signal chain. In many cultures, animal calls held spiritual weight. Imitating them was a form of communion with nature. Historians still debate whether mimicry symbolized kinship with animals or practical hunting technique, but you feel both respect and utility intertwined. You step onto a broad ledge overlooking the river's bend, where stones worn flat by centuries of water lie like stepping stones across a calm pool. Your companion picks up 2 smooth, flat pebbles, sandstone, cool and velvety in their hands, and holds one in each palm, thumbs resting lightly on the edges. This is the moment. Tool clatter, your voice before voice. You probably won't survive this by humming, but by clinking stones in code you can summon allies or warn of approaching danger. You raise one pebble a half inch and let it fall against the other, producing a sharp click that rings across the still water. Click, click, a measured rhythm. You mirror the motion. 2 clicks, pause, 3 clicks. Your agreed upon signal for food here. A mainstream fact ripples through your mind. Archaeology shows that prehistoric hunter-gatherers used bone scrapers and stone clackers to communicate across distances when speech might betray their position to game or rival clans. Early toolkits often included paired stones held specifically for signaling. Thousands of years before radio, humans carried their own beacons in their pockets. Historians still argue whether these tool-based signals developed independently in each region or diffused through nascent trade networks. But the commonality of clatter across sites is undeniable. Your companion nods and taps once, a single metronome click, meaning I hear, I come. You alternate hand positions, clack the stones edge to edge, then face to face, yielding 2 distinct tones, one high-pitched, one lower, expanding your vocabulary. Quirky tidbit: in Australia's Arnhem Land, some Aboriginal groups still use bilma pairs, clapsticks carved from wood, to create rhythmic signals that accompany songlines, the oral maps of ancestral paths. Though your pebbles lack the resonance of hollow wood, the principle is the same. Sound maps a territory without a single word. You step further onto the ledge, water lapping below, and experiment with a third element, a hollow reed you found by the riverbank. You tap the stones on the reed's open end, creating a tinny echo, clack, boom. This composite sound signals danger, predator near water. In some Bronze Age communities, early metal bowls were inverted over reeds to produce deeper resonance, suggesting that as metallurgy dawned, tool clatter merged with new materials to enrich pre-verbal codes. Historians still debate whether such metal resonance signals were deliberate inventions or happy accidents stumbled upon by tinkerers, but the evidence of shallow bowls at river forges hints at experimentation. The evening air carries your pattern across the valley. Click, click, pause, click, 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 boom. You crouch low, listening for the return signal. No breeze distorts the sound. The echoes bounce off the opposite bluff. Soon you detect a faint echo. Your code returned. Your companion raises a hand. Palm up, message confirmed. You silence your clatter, pressing the stones together in a merged hold that means end transmission. You reach into the pouch again and retrieve a small metal blade, a late discovery of native copper hammered flat. You curve it against a granite outcrop and strike with flint, producing a ringing chime more musical than stone on stone. Tink, tink, a bright note that could signal gather at dawn. Although copper use is rare in your band, a fringe group of itinerant metal workers once passed through, teaching you the echo properties of different minerals. Alluvial copper in shallow streams made occasional tinkle possible, even before full metalworking. Historians still argue whether early copper clinks were cultural prizes or mere curiosities, but that faint chime cracks through darkness like a summon. You hold the copper blade near your ear, appreciating its sustained cry, then press its edge against a hollow log to transform the chime into a resonant boom. Tink, tink. The log's natural cavity amplifies the sound. Your code now carries through forest and field. In many Pacific Island cultures, hollow logs served as slit drums, their carved tongues and cavities, creating deep, far-carrying booms. Early long-distance telegraphs in the jungle. Although your log is rough, it does the job. You experiment 2 soft hits, 1 loud ring, an agreed variation meaning storm coming. A drop of rain splatters on the bark. You pause, letting the two of you absorb the tone. The wind stirs the leaves overhead in a natural white noise that could obscure signals, but clatter on hard surfaces still cuts through, a testament to early humans' acoustic ingenuity. You press on the log 3 times, then silent pause. No echo returns. Perhaps the listener has moved on, or perhaps they heard and will respond later. You're comfortable with that uncertainty. In tool-based communication, the act of sending matters as much as the reply. You lean close to the log and whisper a silent thank you, your breath unseen but your impact audible. You pat the log in 4 soft taps. Thank you, and step away, letting the echoes fade. Your companion picks up a small stone and grinds a notch into the log's rim, an ownership mark signifying your code recorded. In many forager societies, notches on wooden posts or shells recorded exchanges of sound messages and debts. They functioned as memory aids, linking tool clatter to ledger-like markings. Researchers still debate whether these visual records served communal memory or private mnemonics, but the practice underscores an early union of sound and sight. The rain intensifies. You lift your head to the grey sky and let droplets drum on your hood, nature's percussion. You match your clatter code with a single stone tap on the reed. Quonk. It's your improvisation, a note meaning embrace the natural cadence. Your companion laughs without words, the sound merging with the rain's patter in a spontaneous concerto. As the rain eases, you crouch by the log one last time and gather fallen twigs to sweep away any obvious tool marks, preserving the log's anonymity. Your code remains woven in the wood's memory, hidden beneath natural debris. You tap once more, final click, then turn, and walk back toward camp. Without a word, you and your companion reach the warm glow of the fire-lit camp. You remove the reed and stones, passing them to a neighbor who glances up with expectation. No gesture is needed. Only the tool clatter they heard moments ago speaks clear. I have returned. You slip away from the dying embers of the campfire into the velvet hush of the night, where the world narrows to the soft whisper of cloth and the brush of your companion's sleeve against yours. Here, in the forest's secret, dark sight surrenders its throne, and touch steps forward as sovereign messenger. You probably won't survive this by waving your arms like a windmill, but a gentle brush on the shoulder or a tap on the forearm can speak volumes in this low visibility world. Your companion raises a forearm to chest height and taps it twice with 2 fingers. Tap, a signal meaning all clear, follow me. You echo the taps on your own arm, affirming the message without a single word. A mainstream fact emerges as you move in sync. Anthropologists studying the Kung of the Kalahari note that tactile signals, light touches on arms or backs, are integral to silent tracking hunts, ensuring hunters maintain formation when stalking game. Historians still argue whether such tactile codes were standardized across groups or developed through intimate training, but there's no dispute that touch served as a reliable channel when the jungle's chorus drowned out voices. A light joke tickles your thoughts. If only modern offices tapped office partitions to share memos.
You step forward and brush your hand along the mossy bark in a slow swipe, move forward before releasing and continuing in silence.
Your feet disturb a carpet of leaves. Your companion follows, brushing your sleeve with a gentle upward stroke. Soft step. That one upward brush, performed even when your arms hang at your sides, prevents snapped twigs and noisy leaf crunches. A mainstream echo reminds you in Arctic tundra hunts, Inuit guides would tap reindeer antlers gently to mimic footsteps, allowing dog teams to advance without alarming caribou. Historians still debate whether such tactile mimicry was widespread or confined to cold climate groups, but its principal touch as stealth resonates here. You reach a pool of stagnant water, its surface still except for night insects. You crouch and tap a stone flat with a swift rod tap. Knock water here. Your companion follows with a brush of fingertips along your forearm. 2 quick strokes. Drink lightly. In many desert cultures, a light stroke on the wrist meant no water to avoid dangerous stops. A double stroke meant drink, but ration. This nuanced pressure code kept caravans alive in blistering heat. Fringe accounts from Middle Eastern nomads speak of a skin semaphore, where pressure on the jugular indicated danger nearby. Historians still argue whether such pressure systems were formal rituals or improvised warnings, but your skin remembers each distinction. You kneel at the water's edge and place 2 fingers on the rippling surface. Clean water safe. Your companion tests the depth with a gentle push, brush of the hand, shallow or drinkable. This non-verbal survey, combining touch and observation, replaced any spoken caution. You scoop water into cupped hands and drink, then extend your damp hands forward in small, slow circles. Gesture meaning pour water here, offering the rest to your companion without a word. This circular motion, traced directly in the air, signifies sharing and unity. Across Pacific Islands, similar circular hand motions at communal wells signified "fill my container," ensuring even shy individuals received water. Such tactile wind gestures endured long after words emerged, underscoring humanity's tactile roots. Suddenly, a low rustle to your left startles you. You freeze and raise your hand a half-inch palm outward, signaling stop. Your companion halts mid-step, their palm mirroring yours, eyes scanning the brush. This silent halt signal has likely saved more lives than any shout. Startled game returns to normal. Rival hunters remain unaware. In many tribal war councils, a single hand lift commanded immediate stillness, allowing warriors to assess ambush points. Historians still argue whether such signals constituted an early martial sign language or natural extensions of peace signs, but their efficacy is clear. The rustle ceases. You shift your weight, tapping each shoulder once with an open palm. Tap on right shoulder, tap on left, meaning safe to move. Your companion catches the taps and rises, offering you their hand to steady your ascent. You accept, palm meeting palm, a handshake of trust forged in darkness. That single tactile bond conveys more than any vow, mutual reliance. You follow the trail back to camp, with only the pressure of a guiding hand on your back, each step propelled by that gentle nudge. No words, just touch. Brush of elbow for forward, tap of hip for caution, squeeze of hand for reassurance. When you reach the fire's glow, you press a single finger to your companion's wrist. Thank you, and they smile, responding with a tender brush on your palm. You push through a thicket of fern and bramble, the air redolent with the damp musk of earth, and pause to crush a handful of mugwort between your fingers. Its bitter camphor scent rises like a whisper, and you rub the pulpy leaves onto a low-hanging branch at knee height. Your first olfactory breadcrumb, a single wave of your hand across your chest, palm flicking down, signals scent trail laid. In this world before words, fragrance was punctuation in the air, guiding the nose as much as tracks guided the eyes. You step forward, each footfall soft, and watch your companion follow the invisible corridor of mugwort aroma. Your companion pauses at a fork in the path and inhales sharply, nostrils flaring in evolution's own search engine, then cradles their mouth with a finger. Pause. They kneel and retrieve an oiled leather pouch from their belt, uncorking it to release a waft of rendered animal fat, scented with crushed juniper berries. A cloth-wrapped stone appears from the pouch. Your companion rubs the stone briskly against a nearby tree trunk, turning the bark glossy and perfumed. This aromatic swipe means water source 2 miles ahead, a code you both recognize from summer treks. Quirky tidbit: in parts of Siberia, reindeer herders mixed pinchberry oil with fish fats to create pungent smears on posts, signaling migratory route that no predator would cross. The idea of squirrels sniffing out pine nuts on a fat-marked pole gives you a private chuckle. A slender column of smoke drifts above the mucky stream you crossed hours ago. You smile at the echo of your early fire signals. Now, scent trails add a softer touch to communication. You bend to crush a patch of sweet flag root, its cinnamon-like fragrance screeching through the mugwort. You smear the mash onto a protruding rock, an aromatic exclamation mark meaning gather here for rest. Mainstream archaeology tells us that Neolithic farmers in Europe used similar markers, scented clay balls left at field edges to denote property boundaries and grain stores. Scholars still argue whether these scent-marked tokens were utilitarian or part of fertility rites, but the intersection of agriculture and aroma is undeniable. Your companion kneels beside you and rubs the same sweet flag into their hairline, map on person, ensuring they carry the trail's signature even if the branch markers wash away. In some Pacific islands, coconut oil mixed with crushed turmeric became a wearable scent map, guiding fishers back to shore by scent memory. You sniff your companion's hair and try not to gag at the potent spice. A small light joke curls in your chest. If only GPS trackers ran on perfume, you'd never lose signal. You rise and touch your clenched fist to your heart in a replica of the ancient empathy gesture. We share this scent, a silent bond. Then you spread your arms wide, spinning slowly to let the fragrances drift outward, a broadcast of welcome in a language of breeze. The forest inhales and exhales around you, tinctured with human intention. Ahead, at the edge of a grassy meadow, you spot a ring of tall reeds swaying. You kneel and mix fresh river clay with crushed lavender bud, a colorless purple hint, and smear it onto the reed bases. The lavender scent layered over the juniper and mugwort means cross here at dawn. Lavender's calming properties also soothe anxious travelers. Fringe research suggests Roman soldiers used lavender liniments on shields to ease pre-battle nerves, blending utilitarian and psychological uses. Historians still debate whether lavender's medicinal qualities or its aroma primarily drove its adoption in ancient Eurasia, but both converge here in your scented code. The sun dips low, and the meadow's golden hush presses you to hurry. You follow your nose back toward the forest's embrace, companion's footsteps shadowing yours. When you reach the old oak with the painted pigments, a callback to the body paint of Section 7, you run a hand along the mottled bark, release a final wave of lavender, and press a lightly scented palm print into the clay among the red and black. This fragrant fingerprint means return safe. In ancient Maya studios, cacao butter mixed with indigo dye was pressed into temple walls as scented votives, leaving both color and aroma on sacred surfaces. Your palm print winks at those distant ceremonies. You and your companion arrive back at the scented campfire ring just as dusk deepens into star-speckled night. The mingled aromas of mugwort, juniper, and lavender swirl above the fire, an olfactory welcome home. A gentle laugh escapes you. Modern homecoming rituals rarely include this level of aromatherapy. Your companion offers a small cloth bundle. Inside, dried sage rolled into a wick, lighting it at the last embers of the fire. The smoke curls upward in lavender-tinged puffs, a fragrant day's story complete. You breathe it in, letting the scents translate the day's silent dialogues, each aroma a sentence in your unspoken narrative. As you lie beside the dying firelight, you realize that before words existed, scent trails mapped survival, solidarity, and sanctuary, an invisible language written on the breeze. You wake to the gentle hiss of dawn, seeping through wound reeds, the camp's scents fading in first light. Beside you, your companion stands at the edge of the clearing, carefully arranging a cluster of small spiral shells on a flat stone. Each shell's aperture faces inward, forming a ring around the boulder, an intentional layout signaling camp here to any returning clan members. You probably won't survive this by scattering pebbles at random, but aligned artifacts speak a clear message in the world before words. Stepping forward, you mirror their arrangement, placing smooth bone fragments at precise intervals between the shells. The bones, shed antler, tines, and bird claws point in the direction of a nearby game trail. A mainstream fact grounds you in time. Hunter-gatherer sites across Eurasia, from the Dordogne Valley to Siberian riverbanks, contain deliberately arranged bone circles, believed to mark food caches or safe resting spots. Historians still argue whether such placements served primarily utilitarian purposes, mapping resources, or spiritual ones, but their recurrence across vast regions confirms intentional human design. Your companion selects a flat wooden plank, an old drumstick smoothed by fire, and lays it parallel to the shellbone ring, its length indicating approach with caution. In Pacific Northwest shell middens, similar wooden markers have been found at fishing sites, used to indicate ownership or seasonal usage. Fringe research suggests some tribes painted these planks with natural dyes for color coding, though no pigments remain on the weathered wood. Incense. Of 4. Sentience. You examine the plank's grain, feeling the carved notches, each notch a silent numeral in the local tally system. A breeze flutters through the clearing, rustling ferns and carrying the tang of river mist. You gather 3 large flat stones, pressing them upright in a line pointing east to west. This stone line means sunset gathering, a call to the communal fire at dusk. Archaeologists have identified linear stone alignments at Bronze Age ritual sites across Europe, though their precise functions often elude consensus. Historians still debate whether these lines were astronomical observatories or simple territorial markers, but here they function as both horizon pointer and social summons. You step closer to a mossy stump and lay a carved wooden token, a spiral shape echoing the cave art from section 7 against its side. This spiral token symbolizes seasons turning, reminding your group of the annual arc from planting to harvest. In Celtic archaeology, spiral motifs on standing stones have been interpreted as solar symbols or life cycle markers. Scholars still argue whether these carvings recorded actual calendars or served as artistic expressions, but your token carries that dual legacy. Your companion collects a handful of bright red berries and arranges them at the ring's center in a perfect circle, one berry per member of the clan, signifying all present. In some Amazonian tribes, fruit clusters marked communal meetings. A red pineapple slice, rotated daily, signaled the rotating council chief. Fringe accounts suggest this practice emerged independently in riverine societies, yet the ubiquity of fruit markers underscores humans' instinct to use found objects for symbolism. You stand back and survey the entire arrangement. Shells, bones, stones, plank, spiral token, berry cluster, all interlinked by vine. It reads like a silent treaty. Camp location, resource trail, caution notice, sunset meeting, seasonal awareness, presence tally, binding covenant. No words required, yet the message resonates deeply. You feel the geometry of objects speak of community structure in a way speech could not. Your companion taps the spiral token lightly, knock, meaning review at moonrise. In Melanesian reef traditions, small shell discs carved with initials were dropped at tidal altars, each tap a prayer and a record. A light joke surfaces. If only modern homeowners left tokens like these on front lawns instead of cryptic for sale signs. You smile at your companion, who nods and steps forward to realign a slightly askew stone, ensuring the code remains precise. You help tie a knot at one corner of the vine, the final gesture meaning seal the pact. In some Pacific archaeological sites, vine-wrapped bundles of objects have been found under ceremonial platforms, intentionally buried as time capsules. Historians still argue whether these bundles stored legal documents or sacred relics, but your vine circle feels both ledger and reliquary. As dawn breaks fully, golden light kisses the artifact ring, spotlighting each object's texture. You run your fingertip along the vine, leave a fingerprint in damp pulp, a modern echo of the hand stencils earlier in your journey. In that singular touch, your presence blends with ancient practice, humans crafting meaning through objects long before words carved the air. You and your companion step away from the ring, casting one last backward glance. The arrangement stands silent, a library of objects waiting to be read. In the world before words, artifact placement was the script, shells and bones inked in earth, a vocabulary across materials, a conversation in objects. As you walk toward the forest's edge, you carry that silent treaty in your heart, a testament to human ingenuity and the power of symbols without speech. You slip off the beaten trail and enter a grove where sunlight fractures through young birches, dancing across smooth sap-traced trunks. Your companion pauses before a grand oak with a broad swath of bark peeled away in a vertical stripe, an intentional blaze marking turn left. You probably won't survive this by guessing at random forks, but that simple scar of exposed wood is your signpost. In a world before words, carving trees was writing in living bark. You lean forward and press your palm against the stripped surface, feeling the rough texture and faint sap stickiness. A mainstream fact emerges. Across North America, indigenous peoples from the Cherokee to the Lakota created trail trees, bending saplings at juvenile age into distinct shapes, arcs, forks or rings to mark water sources, safe campsites or sacred sites. These arboreal signposts could last centuries, guiding travelers long after their creators were gone. Historians still argue whether trail tree practices predated European arrival by millennia or spread through pre-contact trade networks, but dendrochronologists agree many bent trees date back at least 400 years. Your companion retrieves a small hatchet and chips, 2 notches above eye level, sharp V-cuts, meaning water downstream. Each notch is precise, angled toward the river's bend below. You nod, pressing a finger into the fresh notch, your silent handshake with the tree. Quirky tidbit: in parts of northern Europe, medieval monks carved crosses into beech trees to mark hermitages and holy wells. The practice may have influenced local trail tree conventions. You imagine a wandering pilgrim centuries ago, following crosses to find a monk's cell. As you move deeper, you notice a sapling bent horizontally at waist height, its trunk arching like a green bridge. A rough lash of vine secures it in place, a living sign reading "Pass Under." You crouch beneath, brushing your hand along smooth bark, then gently tug the vine to release and reset the bend, an eco-friendly marker that grows with the tree. Your companion steps ahead to a moss-covered boulder beside the path, adding a flat stone atop a cairn of 3 smaller rocks. You recognize the pattern. Each cairn in this forest has exactly 4 stones when pointing south, 2 stones when indicating hazards, and 5 when marking medicinal plant stands. You collect a smooth river pebble and balance it atop the stack, your touch confirming healing herbs here. Mainstream archaeology notes that cairns have been used worldwide, from Scottish highlands to Korean mountain trails, as durable language-free signposts. Historians still argue whether cairns originated as burial mounds or trail markers, but their presence in migration corridors predates many written records. You pause by a granite outcrop, where a shallow groove has been carved into a natural crack, wide enough to slide a finger through. This carved groove, you know, means stop, look left. You run your finger through the groove, then step to the left to reveal a hidden alcove of fresh water trickling from the rock. Fringe research suggests that some prehistoric European groups carved grooves with flint tools, not only for direction, but also to channel water off surfaces for ritual purification. You cup the spring water in both hands, touch your chest, gratitude, and drink deeply. A soft breeze stirs, and you catch the scent of pine needles freshly crushed beneath your fingers. Your companion tilts a fallen branch against a trio of saplings, creating a temporary X marker, meaning "do not enter." In some West African forests, foragers placed thorny branches in unusual positions to warn of creature lairs or spiritual zones. Legends tell of spiky branches above swamps to ward off evil spirits. Historians still debate whether these were functional warnings or part of animist rites, but the thorn barrier commands respect. You step lightly around the barrier and follow a line of pebbles embedded in the moss, each pebble half sunk to prevent rolling, marking narrow passage. This microcairn system echoes the practice of Appalachian trail builders, who buried white pine cones in earth to guide hikers. Though modern cone trails are ecologically disruptive, your pebble path respects the moss and leaf litter, leaving the forest floor mostly intact. Further on, a slender birch has 2 intersecting lines carved at chest and shin height, cross hatches denoting hunting boundary. This tree both marks territory and instructs where blinds may be set. In Scandinavia, Viking hunters carved runes on aspen trees to claim hunting rights. These rune trees served both legal and symbolic functions. Scholars still dispute whether runic inscriptions preceded tree carvings or vice versa, but the entwining of lore and bark marks is a constant. At a sudden clearing, you find a ring of small upright sticks, driven into the ground in a spiral, stalk-like ritual ground. Your companion kneels to arrange fallen leaves in concentric circles inside the spiral, indicating sacred assembly here. A mainstream echo resonates in Neolithic Britain. Timber circles, at sites like Woodhenge, formed the heart of ceremonial gatherings. Though larger in scale, the principle of a marked ritual space remains the same. Historians still argue whether these timber rings served astronomical, religious, or calendrical purposes, but your simple spiral plays all those roles in microcosm. You examine the spiral's center and brush away debris to reveal faint petroglyphs at the soil level, ancient carvings of hunters and beasts, eerily echoing the rock art you saw in Section 6's cave. You touch the petroglyph with your palm, respect, and whisper a silent promise not to disturb the fragile designs. In some desert regions, archaic petroglyph spirals denote water sources or clan symbols. Scholars still debate whether they are maps or mythic storytelling. Here they stand as both guide and narrative. Your companion anoints each of you with a thin line of pine resin pulled from a wound on a nearby tree. Seal this path. The sticky resin, still malleable, binds the markings to bark, pebble, and stick. In ancient Egypt, resins preserved papyrus scrolls. Here, they preserve trail markers. Fringe studies suggest that resin-bound markers could last seasons, their scent wafting in damp months to reinforce visual cues. Historians still argue whether resin use was primarily preservative or symbolic, but tonight it secures your plant and rock messages against weather's erasure. As dusk approaches, you look back along the path you've modified. Carved blazes, bent saplings, tied vines, cairns, pebble lines, spiral rings, each environmental tweak a silent syllable in your day's dialogue. You and your companion step off the path, dust your hands on moss, and share a gentle shoulder touch. Mission complete. The forest settles around you, now understanding your presence and plan without a single spoken word. In this world before words, humans spoke through the landscape itself, sculpting trees and stones into sentences, weaving vines into paragraphs. Each environmental modification was a living inscription, a map etched in bark and earth. As you walk back to camp, the forest behind you hums with stories only your hands and eyes can read. You awaken before sunrise, dew soaking the camp's fringe, and slip into the soft hush where breath and heartbeats are the thinnest sounds. Today you and your companion step beyond isolated gestures and enter the realm of proto-sign languages, systems of hand shapes and motions, refined into a loose grammar long before words cut the air. You probably won't survive this by waving wildly, but by forming your fingers into deliberate shapes and rhythms, you'll converse as clearly as any spoken tongue. You rise and stand facing your companion, palms raised chest high, thumbs tucked inward, and fingertips gently touching, forming the first agreed-upon sign for assemble. This shape, simple yet distinct, condenses previous sweeping arm invitations into a single emblem. A mainstream fact grounds this moment. Studies of modern sign languages suggest that core hand shapes, flat palms, fists, V signs, derive from universal human gestures used by deaf communities millennia ago. Scholars still argue whether such systems emerged spontaneously across societies or diffused through trade. Either way, hand shapes formed the vocabulary of silent communication long before formal languages. Your companion responds with a quick rotation of the wrists, palms facing down to palms up, a grammatical marker meaning all, transforming assemble into everyone assemble. In many sign tongues, palm orientation acts as grammatical inflection. Fringe research by primatologists suggests that chimpanzees trained in sign often use palm flips to indicate plurality, hinting at deep evolutionary roots for this nuance. You adopt the flip yourself, feeling the silent grammar solidify in your bones. Next, you form a pointing index finger at chest level, who, establishing the question form. Then you sweep both hands outward, palms facing the group, joined. Your companion nods, then cups one hand vertically and brushes the thumb along the index finger, an early classifier gesture, meaning male, borrowed from hunter-gatherer gender roles in division of tasks. In many indigenous signing systems, classifiers indicate gender, shape or motion, infusing the language with visual specificity. Historians still debate whether these classifiers evolved from mimetic gestures or from conventionalized symbols, but their presence enriches your proto-language. You gather a small circle of stones and guide your companion's hand through a sequence: flat palm on stone for sit, then index finger sweeping circle for circle, then open palm pressing downward for ground, constructing the sentence sit in circle on ground. This combination of discrete signs flows as smoothly as spoken words, each hand shape and movement a phoneme in your silent lexicon. Rising, you form a thumb and pinky sign. Rest, by extending thumb and little finger while tucking middle fingers. This sign predates recorded sign languages, yet echoes the modern ASLY shape. In anthropological fieldwork among the Plains tribes, similar gestures mark the end of council sessions, a silent adjourn. Scholars still argue whether such shapes influenced later lectomorphic alphabets or remained confined to gesture systems, but tonight, rest feels both universal and ancestral. You lift one palm in a gentle arc. Begin, then sweep downward in a flattened book motion. Teach. Your companion crosses forefingers in an X at chest level. Not speak, then places thumbs to temples. Mind. You and your companion step outside the camp ring and employ directional signs. Palm faces north, go water, then shift palms down one notch, slow and rotate fingers like wheels, carry back. This directional indexing, placing hand shapes in cardinal orientation, resembles how Australian Aboriginal signers mapped landscape features in signed songlines. Fringe linguists propose that these cardinal sign systems prefigure complex wayfinding languages, but mainstream consensus holds that spatial grammar in signing reflects deeply human spatial cognition. As you walk toward the river, you practice variations, a fist tapping the shoulder. Wait becomes more emphatic with a raised second tap. Wait longer, an open hand, fingers splayed, and flicking the thumb. Danger, multiplied by a sideways flick, move aside. Each sign's precision matters. A slight shift of finger angle can flip meanings. Your companion pauses at a fallen tree and signs cross carefully, then surveys your form. Good, then signs step true. Even as you tread a natural path, your silent sentences guide each careful footfall. You reach a shallow ford, and using both hands you draw a horizontal line, water level, then trace the line upward too high. This signed observation, grounded in body space mimicry, replaces spoken weather reports. You mimic a crouch, wade, and draw a small V shape with 2 fingers, 2-foot depth to confirm safety. In maritime communities, fishermen use similar finger patterns to indicate wave height and depth, a gestural safety protocol. Historians still argue whether these gestured calibrations evolved into maritime flags or remained oral conventions, but their clarity underpins safe passage. On the opposite bank, you form the sign for thank you, flat hand from chin outward, then add a slight head bob, many thanks. Your companion mirrors with a broader bowing gesture, open palms downward before chest. Welcome always. This gesture, palms pressed together near heart, gratitude, prefigures the gesture, later codified in Buddhist Anjali Mudra, centuries before any recorded contact. Scholars still debate whether such bowing gestures diffused across Asia or emerged independently in spiritual contexts, but your heartfelt exchange resonates. By midday, you and your companion have signed dozens of sentences, trade routes, weather, hunting, teaching, all without a single sound. In a final flourish, you gather your hands to chin, thumbs touching, fingers splayed like a fan, circle of knowledge. Your companion brings their hands to mirror the shape, creating a silent halo. This sign, likely one of the earliest meta-signs, frames the language itself, a circle of shared understanding before words existed. As you cross the sunlit clearing back to camp, you reflect on the grammar of hands, verbs in motion, nouns as shapes, questions as angled points. In the absence of spoken complexity, your hands carried vast meaning, evolving from simple gestures into a structured pact of signs. The world before words spoke through fingers, bones and pulses, shaping human bonds in a silent eloquence that underlies every spoken language today. In the quiet that follows, allow your mind to rest, unraveled from the intricate codes of survival and solidarity. Imagine those ancient hands, folded gently, palms resting in laps, fingers loose and at peace. The stones, shells and leaves that once spoke as letters are now settled back in earth, their messages delivered in full. Feel the weight lift as the need to decode dissolves into stillness. Hear only your breath and the forest's soft reply. The clipped ticks of your pulse become a lullaby, guiding you towards sleep. Your body, once a vessel of sign and symbol, now yields to the gentle pull of night's embrace. Let each muscle uncoil, each thought drift, and each finger unclench. The world of gestures need not continue, its stories carried forward in quiet slumber. Rest now in the shared calm that survived without voice. As darkness deepens, know that silence is not emptiness, but the substrate of all whispers to come. Drift along the pathways laid by hands long gone, where each step is cushioned by unspoken understanding. And as sleep finds you, let the echoes of that first language carry you into dreams, unburdened and serene.